Okay, so we're holding on Daf Zayin Amud Bet. We're a couple of lines up from the bottom at the two dots, Gufa, in the Art Scrolls English edition. It can be found on Shabbos, Part 1, Chapter 1, 7b3. 7b3, the new topic, Gufa. So Gufa usually means that it was mentioned in an earlier Braita, in an earlier statement in the Gemara, and now we're going to come back to analyze it a little more. So the statement was, Amr Rav Chisda, no. At kona b'reshus hayachid v'zarak v'nach al gabav afilu gavoa mea ama hayav mipnei shirshut hayachid ola ad l'rakia. Okay, so this was the case we mentioned last time we learned, where it's that if a person goes on top of his roof and he puts a big pole there, and on top of the pole puts a small basket, which is we're going to see is not a 4x4 area, not 4 tvachim by 4 tvachim, just something small on top there, a little platform, and someone goes from the Reshut Rabim, so from the public domain, and he throws something on top of that pole, and it lands on top of that small platform on the top, that he's going to be Hayav. Because we said the Reshut Yahid goes up all the way to the sky. So since you did a transfer from the Reshut Rabim to the Reshut Yahid, so you'll be Hayav Karet if you did it on purpose, did it on by mistake, Hayav Hatat. If you did it with the warnings, you'll be Skila, Hayav Skila. So that's what Rav Chisda said. Now, what the Gemara is trying to get to is as follows. We said previously that to pick something up from a place or to put something down in a place, it needs to be, that area needs to be a 4 tefach by 4 tefach area. Because that's somewhere where I will keep something. Something that's less than that area is not significant enough to leave something at. So here, the guy did, he did the Akira, he did the uplifting from the Reshut Rabim, and he's throwing it to the Reshut Yachid, but the Reshut Yachid it's a pole with a little thing on top of it. So where is the 4x4 area? So lema is this to say Rav Chisda the Amrei Rebbe. Rav Chisda holds like Rebbe. Rebbe is going to hold you don't need, or we think at least Rebbe holds that you don't need a 4x4 area. The Tanya, because we had it right. Zorak v'noch al gabezis kol shehu. If someone threw something in the Reshut Rabim and it falls onto some sort of protrusion, maybe the protrusion is the Reshut Yachid. Rabbi Mechayev. Rabbi says Mechayev because Rabbi would say you don't need 4x4. I mean, Poturin. The Chacham say Potter. Alma loy pina malkum arba larba. So you see that Rabbi does not require a 4x4 area. So that's maybe what Rav Chisda is going according to. Rabaya says on top of 8A1. Rabaya Bershut Hayachet de Kuli Alma Lo Pligi Kiderav Chisda. The truth is, nobody is arguing with Rav Chisda. Everyone holds that in Reshut Yachid, if something is transferred from Reshut Rabim to Reshut Yachid, even if it's on a small protrusion, even if it's on a pole with something up there, it's going to be considered a Reshut Yachid. It's going to be considered a transfer, and the person will be Hayab. Why is that? Why is it that that he gets such a status? So I'm just going to read over here. Yesh loimer shirak. Okay, finish it. Aval im nacha chafetz b'malkum shel reshus hayachid gemura. Av im nach shav b'malkum she'en bo aver chayev. Because Tosfos explains. Shirak b'bayit nemer she'en tzarich malkum aver lava lefi shevit nechshav kilu hu mola v'sotum ad harakia. V'nimtza sha'aniach al malkum aver lava af shniach al hakana. Says Tosfot, we already have a din. We know, we saw this already, that the house is considered full since it's a place of inhabitants. So no matter where in the Reshut Yachid it falls, it's always considered it's falling on something, and it's considered as if it is a 4x4 area. Lahalacha, this is what we say. Let's look at the halacha. Every part of a private domain reaches up to the sky. Therefore, if one stuck a stick in the private domain and threw an object from the public domain that came to rest on top of it, even if the area of the stick surface is less than 4 by 4, it has a legal status of a full-fledged private domain, and he is liable. And it's in accordance with the opinion of Rav Hizda. This was the Rambam and the Shulchan Aruch. So we have here that something falls into the Reshut Rabim, even if it doesn't fall in a 4 by 4 area, it's considered it's in the Reshut Yachid, and a person who threw it from Reshut Rabim to Reshut Yachid is going to be Chayav. Now, so where was this case that was a machloket between Rebbe and the Chachamim, between Yehuda Nasi and the Chachamim? Where was this argument? Elohacha. Elohacha. V'ilan ha'omed b'reshut yachid v'nofo noteh l'reshut rabim. Okay, this is the story. You have here a tree. You have here a tree that is in the private domain. It's in the reshut yachid. It's in my backyard, my front yard that's enclosed. And now the branches are out in the Reshut Rabim. Bezarak venach agufo. And he throws something from the Reshut Rabim, and it falls onto the branches that are in the Reshut Rabim. The Rebbe Sava, Rebbe says, Amrinon, Shedei nofo batarikaro. Now, Rebbe says the branches go after the trunk. So even though it fell on the branch, it's as if it fell on the trunk. And if it falls on the trunk is Reshut Yachid. I don't need a 4 by 4 area because in the Reshut Yachid, everything is considered 4 by 4, even if there's no 4 by 4. So it's considered Reshut Yachid, and therefore I'll be Hayav. But the rabbi say, no, lo amrina shedei nofo batarikaro. We don't say the branches go towards the trunk of the tree. And we say, oh, wherever the trunk of the tree is. No, we don't say that. We look at the area that it is. What is the branch? The branch is in the Reshut Rabim. The branch is less than 4 tefach by 4 tefach, and it's within 3 to 9, or it's even more than 9 or 10, but it's less than 3 by 3, or it's above 10 tefachim from the ground. It's going to be considered makom patur. And therefore, a person will be patur, and if we put it to makom patur. So that's the machloket there. Rabbi and the Rabbanan are dealing with the tree and its trunk. Does the branches follow the trunk, or the branches don't follow the trunk? And it's not the case of Rav Hizda. Take a look at the Rambam in Hilchot Shabbat. If a tree is standing in the private domain and its branches extend into the public domain, its branches are not considered part of the trunk, and they constitute a reshut unto themselves, and usually a makom patur. Okay, fine. Now we come to another interesting case. Amar Abaya zarak kaveret l'reshut harabim. Okay, so a kaveret is it's a reed basket, but it's a large reed basket. Okay, now let's read the Gemara a little bit, and then we're going to explain it in detail. Be'ezat Hashem. So Zara kever shel Rabim, he threw this huge basket into the public domain. So he took it from Reshut Yachid and he throws it into the Reshut Rabim. So the question is, did he do a transfer? I would assume yes, because he's throwing something from Reshut Yachid to Reshut Rabim. So let's see what the Gemara says. Givo asara v'en chavashisha, if it is 10 tvachim high, so 40 inches high. But it's not 6 tvachim wide. 6 times 4 is 24 inches wide. Hayab. Then it will be hayab. But if it's 6 tvachim wide, then patur is going to be patur. So according to this Gemara right now, if it's a large barrel where it's 24 inches long and it is 40 inches high, and you threw that into the Reshut Rabim from the Reshut Yachid, you're going to be patur. And if it is less than that dimensions, then you're going to be hayab. Why would something bigger be patur and something smaller be hayab? So it all goes back into the way the malacha was done in the Mishkan. The malacha in the Mishkan was done, hotza'ah was by throwing instruments to the people working, needles, hammers, whatever they use, whatever type of instruments, not negaya right now. And they would throw it to each other. But they were small articles. Okay? A big barrel that has inside of it the dimensions of a Reshut Yahid, right? 40-inch walls with a space of a 4x4 inside. You're no longer throwing a article, a chayfetz, you're throwing a reshut. You're throwing a domain. And that is not the malacha. And therefore you will be patur. So why does it say 6? Should be 10 by 4, right? We said 10 tfachim walls with a 4x4 interior or surface space is a 4x4. We said it's a so why are we saying 6 tfachim here? So we have to realize a barrel is circular, right? It is circular. And we know, if you take a look in the article on 8A-2, you'll see, if you have a 4 tefachim wide circle, it doesn't have a 4x4 area inside of it. You have to have a 5.6 wide circle in order to have a full 4x4 inside the circle. So that's why it says 6. Why does it say 6 and not 5.6? So it's rounding up. Maybe it's rounding up. According to Ben Chananel, it's not rounding up, but rather, the wall of the barrel on each side is another 0.2. So if you're calculating the wall of the barrel, not just the inside of the barrel, but the wall of the barrel, it would be to a total of 6. And that's the way Rabbeinu Chananel understands the 6. So the main point to come out of here is if I have you don't have to use a barrel. The barrel is interesting because it goes with the diameter and you have to have the space. But the same thing true if I had a large cardboard box, okay? And it has walls. And it's 10 tvachim high. And it has a 4x4 area inside. And I threw that from my private domain into the Reshut Rabim. I'm potter. Because I threw what? I threw a reshut and not a chayfetz, and not an article. Rava says, even if it's not 6 tefachim wide, you would still be potter. Right? We said if it's less than 6 tefachim wide in the circle, you don't have a 4x4. So if it's not its own reshut, it's considered a chayfetz. You should be chayiv. That's what Abaya said. And Rav is saying no. Even if it's less and doesn't have a dimension, it's still potter. Why? My tama. O ifshar lekrumiot shel kana shelo ya'alu lemala me'asara. He said, listen, those wicker baskets, those reed baskets you're talking about, they're 10 tefachim high. Guess what? Their side, they're above the rim. There are some reeds that are sticking out. They are above the rim. So when you put it down, you throw it down, yeah, the main walls are in the 10 tvachim, but there are pieces of it that are sticking above the 10. You can only be hayav for a hanacha if the entire thing falls into the Reshut Rabim. If part of it is falling into the makom patur, which is above 10 tvachim, then you're going to be patur. So he said, since there are loose reeds that stick above the rim of the 10 tvachim wall, therefore it will be patur because it's in the makom patur and not all of it resting in the Reshut Rabim. Now, Abaye did not say that. Why didn't Abaye say that? Abaye said those sticking out reeds are not chashuv enough. They're not significant enough for us to reckon with them, and they're batal to the main thing, and the main thing is in the Reshut Rabim, and therefore a person would be hayav according to Abaye. What is the halacha so far from what we saw? So let's read inside here in the halachot. So here he brings from both the Rambam and the Shulchan Aruch. Any vessel that has an area of 4x4 tvachim and 10 tvachim high, the measurements of a private domain of Reshut Yachid, and is placed in the public domain, is considered a private domain. For example, a cabinet, a dresser, a barrel. As a result, if that vessel was thrown from the private domain to the public domain, the thrower is exempt. It's patur, since its legal status is that of a private domain. Halachically, the object was actually thrown from a private domain and remained in a private domain, right? Since it's the whole time it's a Reshut Yachid. From in the Reshut Yachid to Reshut Yachid, and in the Reshut Rabim to Reshut Yachid. So it's going to be a patur. You're throwing a Reshut, and you're not throwing a chayfetz. Any object thrown to the public domain whose upper edge is above the 10 tfachim, as long as its length and width are 4 by 4 for a height of 10 handbreadth, it's considered to be in its own domain. One who threw it in exempt, as per the opinion of Rava. So it seems to be that if it is above 10 handbreadths, but as long as it has a reshut inside, that's what he seems to bring down from the Rambam. Let me just see 1 second in the back over here, and leave with the Hilchasa, how he says it. So we're on Het Amud Aleph. Here, Zara Kana, or Yoimach, person threw a stick or a spear, Menashut Yachid, or Meshut Yachid, Venitka Bereshut Rabim, Kishu Omed, Patur, Sharei Miktato, B'makom, Patur. Since part of it is above 10 Tvachim, it's going to be Patur. So there you have it. So the Rambam is from the Hilchot Rambam, that if it's sticking, just like Rava said here, if it's sticking partially above the 10 Tvachim mark, it's going to be Patur. Okay. Now we're going to come to another interesting case. And this is a little bit of the reverse. And the halacha is going to be hayav, but let's see what we are trying to do. Okay. So here, this barrel has an opening. Okay, the barrels have an opening on the top. All right. Now, we've been talking about placing it upright. So the bottom part, the part that's closed, is on the floor. What happens if the guy now throws it in a way that the mouth is going down, is downwards? Okay, kafa al piyah. He's throwing the barrel that its mouth is downwards towards the ground. Now, what would make a difference? The hair would make a difference. The issue, or the halachic principle, known as lavud. What's lavud? You might have heard it when it comes to hilchot of sukkah. Comes a lot of times in hilchot of mechitzot, which is basically something that's within 3 tvachim of something else is considered halachically closed. Sometimes you see a person makes a sukkah, right, and he puts those strings around, right, in that canvas sukkah. What is he trying to do? He's trying to make a 10 tefach wall with strings. Between each string, I have less than 3 tvachim, so less than 12 inches. Okay, and I make a wall like that, which is halachically a wall, because each one is within 3 tvachim. So here, the question is as follows. If I threw the barrel, and now it's downwards, so it has walls that extend downwards. When I push it up, when I put it upwards, doesn't make a difference. You don't have the principle of the foot. There's no mechitzot. There's no inner walls, right? It's upwards. But when I'm throwing it downwards, when the mouth is facing down, I have, so to speak, walls that can go down. Now, we also said that once it's in within once something is within 3 tvachim of the ground, it's considered that it's on the ground already, right? Something that's within 3 tvachim of the ground is considered bottled to the Reshut Rabim and to the ground, and it's part of the ground. So here's the question. I have a barrel that is, let's say, 7.5 tvachim. Okay? So it's 7.5 tvachim. So it's not 10. So if I throw it, and it has a 4x4 area inside, right? 6 diameters, 6 tvachim wide, 4x4 inside, and I throw it, I should be hayat. Why? Because it's what's it called? It is a chayfetz, and it's not his own reshut. But if I throw it upside down with the barrel facing down, once it hits within 3 tvachim of the ground, so it's 2.9, let's say, into the ground, 2.9 plus 7.5, is 10.4, I have technically, if you consider the walls extending downwards, I have Reshut Yahid because the wall is at 7.5 plus it's within 2.9, so it's considered halachically closed off that wall. And while it's in mid-air falling down, I now have Reshut Yahid, so I should be patur. If it's less than let's say if it's 7.1 and 2.9, let's say so it's 7.05 and 2.9, so it's going to be less than 10 tefachim, then I cannot say that. Then I would be hayat. So let's take a look in the Gemara. Kafa'a al piyah. If I threw the barrel going downward, mouth down. Shiva umashehu. If it's 7 and a little bit, right? So 7 plus 2.9 is going to get you to 9.9. Not going to be enough. So hayab, it'll be hayab. Shiva umechitza, but if I have 7.5, and 7.5 and 2.9 is 10.4, so then patur, then I'll be exempt because I have the walls coming down and creating a 10 tefach area with the lavud, and therefore I should be okay. I should be okay. I should be patur. And Rav Ashi comes and says, Rashi Amar says, no, I feel shemamech chayav, even if it's 7.5, chayav. Why? Matama mechitzot letochan asiyut. Let's not talk about these mechitzot of the barrel. Mechitzot of the barrel was meant to keep something inside, to keep the food inside and stuff like that. They're not like walls for privacy or walls for the sukkah or walls for mechitzah or a gate or something like that. It's for a keli. So matama mechitzot letochan asiyot. It's made for storing honey and the like, and it's not made for walls, so to speak, walls for privacy or walls to protect. And as such, you will not be patur, you would be hayab. The halacha is in accordance with the opinion of Rav Ashi. Even if it's turned over on its mouth, is judged according to the actual length of its sides. The principle of the wood is not applied to consider them larger than they are. That's from both the Rambam and the Ramban, who paskin that we do not, we halachas like Rav Ashi, and we do not give this vessel, this barrel, a lavud status when it's upside down. Okay, next Gemara. Amar Ula. Ula says, Amud Tisha Bereshut Rabim. Virabim Mechatefin Alav. Vizarak Benach Agabav. Hayav. Ma Ta'ama. What is the reason? What's the story here? We said that if you have a pillar in the Reshut Rabim, if it's within 3 tefachim from the ground, it's considered part of the ground. If it's 3 to 9, then it depends. If it has a 4x4 area, right? So then it becomes a carmelit, right? 4x4 area without walls around it. It's going to be a carmelit. If it's less than 4x4 area, so then what? It becomes a makom patur. But somehow, at 9, it becomes a reshut rabim. Why is this? So the Gemara says people use it to shoulder their bags and fix their bags on it. So the Gemara explains, my tama, 3 is considered part of the ground. The people tread on it, it's regular ground. From 3 to 9, it's not walked on and it's not used. But Tish'a vadai mechatefin ilave. But at 9, people are using it. So as such, it gets back the reshut harabim status. At 9 tvachim, a pillar gets a reshut harabim status. Because it's used by the public. So we're going to read here from the Rambam and the Shulchan Aruch. If a pillar in the Reshut Rabim is less than 3 handbreadth size, it's part of the public domains. Batel Reshut Rabim. If it's between 3 and 9, with an area of 4x4, it is a carmelit. If it is less than 4x4, it's a makom batur. A pillar that is exactly 9 handbreadths high, that is Rashi and Rambam's opinion. Another say between 9 and 10, anywhere between 9 and 10, that's the Rosh. if the multitudes adjust their burdens on their shoulders upon it, its legal status is that of a public domain. All right, it becomes a public domain. It comes back to being a Reshut Rabim at 9 or between 9 and 10. If the pillar was 10 or higher, with an area of 4 by 4, it becomes a Reshut Hayahid because you have the walls now extending all the way up. If it is an area of less than 4 by 4, it's a Makom Patur. So here we go. So here's the magic number. At 9 or between 9 and 10, it becomes back to being a Reshut Rabim because it's being used by the Reshut Harabim. So Amar le Abaya le Yosef. Now Abaya asked of Yosef this question based on this understanding that we just said. This was halacha, because earlier we said, remember the Reshut Yahid? Yahid can be with walls going up or with walls going down. Meaning, if I dig a ditch, a basement, whatever it is, right, and I have 10 fachim walls and a 4 by 4 area, I have the Reshut Yahid. So what happens with this pillar? Can I say the same thing is with the pillar going down? Meaning that if it's within 3 tvachim, then it's batal to the Reshut Rabim. If it's between 3 and 9, it depends. If I have 4 by 4, it's a carmelit. If I don't have 4 by 4, it's a what's it called? A makom patur. And if it's at 9, it's a Reshut Rabim. And if it's 10, well, it depends. If it has 4 by 4, if it doesn't have 4 by 4, it's a makom patur. Do we say the same thing in the ditch as we say in the height when it comes to the pillar? The Amalek, Rav Yosef Tabaya, v'chein beguma. The same is true for a hole. Rava says beguma loy, and a guma no, not in the ditch. My tama. What's the reason? My tama, because tashmish ayedei hadechad lo shemeh tashmish. Listen, the whole reason why the pillar was considered because it's very commonly, frequently, and easily used by the Reshut Rabim. But the ditch that's 9 tvachim deep, yeah, it might be used, but sometimes by Reshut Rabim, but it's not used normally. It's not used conveniently. It's dchat. It is forced usage, and as such, it does not get the status of a Reshut Harabim. That's Rava's opinion. So Rav Adam Bar Matna, itivei Rav Adam Bar Matna l'Rava. I'm going to ask you a question to you. We have a braita that says, if a box was laying in the public domain, if it was 10 tefachim high, and it had a 4 by 4 tefach area inside, you cannot carry from inside the box to outside, and from outside to inside the box, because each one has a separate domain. But if it's less than that, if it doesn't have 10 tvachim high, then you could carry, because what would it be? You're not a Reshut Yachid anymore. What is it then? Maybe it's a Reshut Harabim, because it's 9 tvachim, right? If it's not 10 but it's 9, you can carry. Why? Because you can carry within 4 amot in the Reshut Rabim. So I can transfer from inside this box that's 9 tefachim to outside the box where it's a Reshut Rabim, because they're both Reshut Rabim. And the same is true with a hole. So perhaps at 9 tefachim, it becomes a Reshut Rabim. That's what it says. And Rava would said, no, my lam asefa, lo adesha. Don't say when it says v'chein beguma, it's talking about this last case where the box is 9 tefachim high and not tefa. The Chen Beguma is telling us that if you have a ditch that has 10 and 4 by 4, it is an Reshut Hayahid. So therefore, there's no proof. The Chen Beguma might not be going on the last part of the Mishnah, even though it's at the end. It might be talking about earlier, and you don't have proof that 9 tefachim deep hole becomes back to being in a Reshut Rabim. Now, the question that should be asked is, why isn't it a carmelit? Why isn't it a carmelit? And a carmelit, you should not be transferring from a carmelit to Reshut Rabim. We saw that already. So if it's 9 and it has a 4 by 4, so then it's a carmelit. So some want to say a special deen in carmelit bekelim. The Chachamim never made vessels into a Carmelit. Some want to say the vessels are never made into a Carmelit, so therefore it's batel to the Reshut Rabim. And some want to say it's a makom patur, and therefore it would be allowed to carry from within it to out of it, as long as you're within 4 amot. It would be permissible to do that transfer. But Rav Ada Bar Matna is not done questioning. 8A, he challenged Rava from another Braita. The Braita said, Nitkaven lishpot b'reshut rabim. A person is making Erev Techumin, right? So Erev Techumin is when a person needs his residence to be somewhere else on Shabbat. So basically, a person has 2,000 amot in each direction from the outskirts of his city. But if he needs to go further, he can make his residence somewhere closer to where he needs to be. And therefore, he now has 2,000 amot from all that area. How does he make that place? He makes an eruv, takes some food, 2 meals worth, and he puts it in the area that he's going to want to be his center point, his residence. And then from there, he gets 2,000 amot in that further direction that he wants to go. So now, you have to be able to access that eruv on Shabbat. All right. So this is the case over here. The guy is making his residence in the Reshut Rabim. But he puts his eruv in a bar, in a pit. If it's above 10, then his eruv is good. If it's less than 10 tvachim, if it's more than, it's further down than 10 tvachim, and eruv, then it's not an eruv. What's the case? If this pit has 10, umala, and higher up means I just leave it somehow higher up, attach it to the side. And lower means I place it, within at the end of it. Who cares if it's on top or on the bottom? Once the bore has a 10 deep and a 4x4 area, it's a Reshut Yachid, and I'm staying in the Reshut Rabim. I cannot access my eruv from my residence. I'm in the Reshut Rabim. My residence is in the Reshut Rabim, and my eruv is in the Reshut Yachid. I cannot access it, so it should be asur. You can't use that eruv. So, but he said eruv. So ela what? Ela before delit ba'asara. It's an eruv that doesn't have 10. The ketani eruv or eruv, and it says it is eruv. Why? It must be that it's at 9 tvachim. It's at 9 tvachim, and at 9 tvachim, people use it. And since it's used, even though it's forced usage, but since it's used by the Reshut Rabim, it becomes back by being Reshut Rabim at that magic number of 9, and therefore the eruv is an eruv. So you see, Rabba, that 9 tefach deep pit ditch is the Reshut Rabim. So Rava will now answer back. He sometimes answer one way, and sometimes answer a second way. Zimnan mishanele. Sometimes he answered as follows: Who the eruvo the karmelit? Says really the case is that they're both in the Carmelit. The bar is in the Carmelit. The bar is the Carmelit, and it's not 10 tvachim deep, or it doesn't have a 4x4. No, it has to have a 4x4. So it's currently 4x4 between 3 and 9, right? So it's between 3 and 10, according to Rava, in this ditch. And it has a 4x4 area. He's a Carmelit. And he himself is not in a real Reshut Rabim. He's in a Carmelit. And therefore, he's in a Carmelit. That's in a Carmelit. And therefore, his area is area. So why is it Reshut Rabim in the Braita? Lav Dafka doesn't necessarily mean. It just means it's not a Reshut Yachid. And sometimes, Mishanale, he would answer, Who Reshut Rabim? The truth is, he's in a Reshut Rabim. And his area is in a Carmelit. I thought you can't transfer in between. But Rebbe, it's Rebbe. What's Rebbe? The Amar. Kol davar shehu mishum shivut lo gezru alav ben hashmashot. Anything that is because of a rabbinical gizera, the Chachamim didn't put the gizera during twilight. It only starts when it's for sure Shabbat, which is after twilight, after Kitzur Kochavim. So you have to be able to access your Erev at Shkia, right after Shkia, but during Ben Mashot. And if you can access your Erev during Ben Mashot, the Erev is good for the entire Shabbat. So therefore, if it's in a Carmelit, and I'm mentioned Rabim, Carmelit is a Din Rabbanan. So technically, during Ben Mashot, I can get to it because there's no Rabbanans yet. And the Erev is then kosher. And then it's kosher for the rest of Shabbat. I can be in the Rabim, the Erev is in the Carmelit, and that's how it works. Nothing to do with 9 Tvachim deep being a Reshut Harabim. And says, we'll go through all the halachot in a minute, but says Rava, V'loi tema dachuye ka mitchanet lach. Don't think I'm rejecting you. Ela dafka kaminalach. I'm saying it's very definitely that this is the halacha. Ditnan. Because we have a Mishnah. In Mishnah, in Masechet Shabbat later on. Ditnan. You learn the Mishnah. Im haya rekak mayim or reshut rabim mehalechet. There's a shallow pool of water, and the public domain goes through it. If a person throws a distance of 4 amot, then he's going to be hayab because the pool is part of the Reshut Rabim. And how deep is it? It's less than 10 tvachim. Urkak mayim sheshut rabim. And then it says again, urkak mayim sheshut rabim melechel bo. Hazor k'tocha 4 amot hayab. If you have a shallow pool of water through which the public domain goes through, and you throw from the public domain to there, you're going to be hayab because it's part of the Reshut Rabim. Now, why does it say the case twice? Bishlama rekak rekak trezimne. The reason why I taught the case of rekak rekak twice to tell us a shallow water hadi what the geshamim doesn't make a difference whether it's in the summer or in the winter. Both of them are going to be considered Reshut Rabim. Utzicha, and you teach me both. Why? Diashmina b'motahama. Because during the summer, I would say, yeah, he's hayab. Why? Because the pond, the small little pond, people cool off themselves there. And so it's definitely part of the Reshut Rabim. People go there. But people don't want to go to this pond and walk through it. It's cold. And if you told me only with the Geshamim, when in the rainy season, because his clothing is already dirty from all the mud. So therefore he doesn't care if he gets a little bit wet. But during the summer when he's able to keep his clothing more dry and clean because the mud roads are cleaner, I would say, no, maybe it's not considered a Reshut Rabim. Therefore, to teach us rekak twice, that both in the summer and in the winter. Why did the Mishnah say hiluch trezimne? Why did it say that he went through, that it goes through? Hiluch. A area that is going through, even if it's forced usage, but it's hiluch, going through. Yes, it gets the status of Reshut Rabim. But tashmish lo shemei tashmish. But something that is used, not going through, but used via forced usage, that does not get the status of Reshut Rabim. Shemamina, indeed, learn from this that forced usage at the 9 tefach mark does not make it a Reshut Harabim. Okay? So just to review the halachot that came out of this sugya. A pit in the public domain that is less than 3 handbreadths deep, less than 3 tvachim, is part of the Reshut Rabim. That we know. But the Reshut Rabim. A hole between 3 and 9, if it has an area of 4x4, it's a Carmelit. If it's not 4x4, it's Makom Patur. If it is 10 or more, and it has a 4x4, it is a private domain. If it's less than 4x4, it's an exempt domain, and it's as per the statement of Rava. So by a Guma, you don't have the magic 9 making it a Reshut Harabim. Give me one more second. If one places Erev in a carmelit and he was in a different domain, it's still a good Erev. As the time that the Erev took place at twilight, he was permitted to take it, per the opinion of Yehuda Hanasi. The sages did not issue decrees during twilight, especially in cases of mitzvah and in special circumstances. A swamp shallower than 10 tfachim that passes in the public domain, through which multitudes walk, is part of the public domain. If it's 10 handbreadths deep and it's 4x4 handbreadth, it is a carmelit. If it's not 4x4, it's going to be a makom patur. Now, just to let me just check one more about this guma. Hold on. Okay, maybe right here. Okay, Guma. Okay, Guma. He says, look back on Zayin Amun Bet. Okay. Anyway, we'll end off over here. It turns out that when going downwards, there is no. Here it is. Guma bereshut rabim. Im en amuka shalosh harehu reshut rabim. Less than 3 tvachim, it's reshut rabim. We saw this. Mishlosha ad asara. He's saying the Steindl didn't write it right. Mishlosha ad asara. Im lahava arba harehu karmelit. Vim lo harehu makom patur. Vim hu amuka asara. Harehi reshut yachid. So you see, there's no magic Reshut Rabim at 9. It is what's it called? It does because it's not used conveniently, therefore doesn't get the status of the Reshut Rabim. Okay, we're going to end it over here. Be'ezrat Hashem, the next time we learn, we will continue. Yasher Koyach, Shavua Tov, Lekulam. We finished in the art scroll on page 8B2.
Thank you.
Yeah, sure. Thank you.